Hello and welcome everyone to Game 2 of the Saitama VGCS. Once again we do have Miltae on the left and Gungnir on the right, both of them playing Nightrose, and Miltae starts off his first turn with a very strong start. He rides into the new shade and he gets the crit Banshee into the soul for an extra draw, and that extra soul is definitely going to help him out in further turns when he has to use Gouache. So now Gungnir is going to go into the grade 1 Ghosty right off the bat, and he's also going to call out his crit to draw as well, so that's very good for him. Let's see if he draws into anything else that can help him out a bit more aggressively. So he actually does get himself the Ghosty grade 1. He's going to drop, was going to reveal the new Nightrose to search out for the old Nightrose, and that way, well, I think the old Nightrose, as I said in the last video, is still the better one to stay on, while the new Nightrose is better on rearguard circles for further combos. So he drops the Negro Bone for, well, the Ghosty skill for the Stride Fighter skill, and now he's going to attack with his Vanguard with the 7k on Miltae's Vanguard. So let's see if he drops any shield for this, but it does not seem like it, and Gungnir gets himself another bone in the hand, while Miltae is going to be taking the second attack's wall damage as well, which gets him a heal, which heals off the first damage, so he's back down to 1. And Miltae goes for the really aggressive turn 2. He rides the Skeleton Cannoneer, calls out 1, and also calls out the Rook. He attacks with the Rook and also the Cannoneer and stands the Rook, so there's a lot of fast plays coming through and is very aggressive. So he's going to get a total of 4 attacks through on turn 2, so this is not looking too good for Gungnir. He gets his second damage in there, and it's a crit. I'm pretty sure he wishes he would have had that earlier to fend off quite a few of these attacks, but sadly they just keep on coming. So now Gungnir has to drop a 5k shield to protect himself against this Skeleton Cannoneer, so let's see if he decides to drop it. So otherwise he will be going up to, I believe, a total of 3 damage now, so it's definitely not looking too good for him because, you know, he also had a fairly good start, but a very aggressive turn 2 from Miltae is definitely going to put him at a slight disadvantage at least, so there's another bone going into his drop zone for the guard. So now it is Gungnir's turn, and let's see what he's going to choose to respond with. Will it be an equally aggressive... Oh no! He doesn't have any aggression, he doesn't even have a grade 2, so that's actually very unfortunate. So Gungnir is going to G-assist and search for a grade 2 for him to ride into, but that's going to put his hand down to 3, and also obviously, you know, reduce his G-zone as well, which isn't exactly the best thing for such a deck. So let's see which grade 2 he decides to go into, but regardless, like, when you think about the situation, even if he rides into a grade 2 now, which, you know, he most likely will, because it does seem like he has one. Also, I apologize for this shakiness. It's not my recording. This is being recorded in Japan, which I am not present at. So, you know, I just kind of got this recording from the organizer of the tournament. So he does get himself the Lazy. So let's see which cards he decides to drop, you know, for the G-assist. So it's really looking quite bad because he's going to be stuck on 3 cards, 4 with a drive check, and, you know, I can't really see, you know, I didn't confirm if he had another crit in hand for another drop, but that doesn't, you know, get him an extra card, it just gets him an extra soul in the end. So in that regard, it's not really looking too good for him. He's definitely at disadvantage, but he might have to actually drop one of his grade 3s because it's just not looking too great for him. But let's see if he actually decides to, you know, if he decides to go with the 2 cards that he's already considering in his open hand. Yes, so it's going to be the Bone and the grade 1 Ghosty, so that's quite unfortunate that he had to drop that. But now from the G-zone, it's looking like he's going to take the Sabreeze. Well, not too sure yet, but it's looking likely. Oh no, he takes away the GR, and it's going to be, okay, it's going to be one of the Fighters Collection G-guards. So that's the end of his G-assist. It did take quite a while, but, you know, it's understandable. There's a lot of pressure because he's got this really aggressive kind of, like, the next turn from Miltae is also going to be super aggressive, so there's not that much he can do about it. So he promotes his Grenache, and, you know, he's going to hope for some trigger as well, for a trigger that he can put on it to kind of respond to this aggression. And, you know, best course of action in the end is probably going to be to just get rid of the rear guards that Miltae has. Oh, and he drops the crit, so that he definitely gets the attack. So he's going to attack with his Vanguard Lazy on the Skeleton Cannoneer, and there's a no pass, so that's not going to hit. And there's another attack to the Cannoneer, and Miltae requests to see the drop zone of Gungnir, and to also, you know, just show off any of the public knowledge spaces. So he does lose the Skeleton Cannoneer rear guard, but that's not the biggest deal for Miltae, I feel. So he's going to promote his starter and also call out the grade 0 well, the crit for Nightrose, and he's going to be able to use it immediately, and Gungnir has to take another damage, and there's another bone gone, so he's going to be losing a lot of his bones, but, you know, he does have, I believe, a couple in the drop zone, so Miltae gets the heal, isn't able to heal, and he gets the shade, and, you know, he did get the draw as well from the crit, so that's definitely good for him. So overall, Miltae is looking super solid. He's got himself a good hand, a good amount of soul, and overall just looking very good for the upcoming turns, while Gungnir's fighting the uphill battle, most definitely. So he rides into the old Nightrose and uses the new Nightrose to stride. He's got himself a total of 3 soul, I believe, and I believe he does have a King Serpent in his drop zone, so he could call that with Nightrose's on-stride skill. So he's going to go into the Gouache, and as I said, he could use the on-stride skill to call out the King Serpent to get himself another soul, and, you know, in the end it counterbalances the cost for Nightrose as well, so it's basically a pretty good scenario for him. So he's going to use the Nightrose, and let's see where he picks up the King Serpent. Let's see where he decides to call it. Oh, he's actually going to call it on top of the Grenache, so that's quite interesting. So let's see if he's gonna... He did a kind of similar thing in the game 1 as well, where he called it on top of the Grenache and then he undid it. But no, he's gonna stay with it this time. He does the counter charge and the soul charge as well, and now he's gonna use the Gouache to counter blast 1, soul blast 1, so he's gonna use the lazy to soul blast, and now let's see if he decides to take out all of his soul, or if he's gonna kind of, you know, just pick out a couple, because if he soul blasts all 3, then that does give him the completely full field, which is quite nice. Okay, he takes out the lazy, takes out the crit Banshee, and let's see if he's gonna take out the last card, which I believe is the Ghosty, but for now he's considering just 2 cards, so he will be able to bring back 2, but it looks like he's gonna go with just 2 because he has, well, he did flip the G unit, but I don't think that, you know, necessarily says that he's done with his soul blasting. So let's see what he decides to do, because if he does take the 3, then he gets the full field back, which is definitely nice. But if it's just 2, then it's gonna be, you know, just the 2. It's nothing too amazing. But let's see what he decides to do. Oh no, he's considering the 3, and yeah, so he soul blasts all 3 cards. So he's gonna be able to call out 3 cards with Gouache's skill. So he calls out the crit Banshee, the Bone, and let's see what the last card will be. I guess Lazy is a good... Yeah, okay, he's gonna take the Lazy. He did have at least 2 in his drop zone, and I believe he's gonna use... Well, he hollowed the Lazy, I believe, and then he's gonna use the Banshee crit to put her into the soul immediately, and then, well, essentially just get his draw out immediately. So there goes the King Serpent, and now he's gonna attack with the Lazy. The King Serpent did have a little buff, so there's that as well. So now he's gonna attack with the... Well, he's gonna use the Bone to essentially get rid of his Lazy and call out something else. And alright, so he's gonna call out another Lazy. And I believe also we don't have the audio for the game, unfortunately, so I don't know when they actually hollow their cards. But he's gonna use that Lazy skill to soul blast 1 and counter blast 1 to call out another card. So let's see what he decides to take. Whether it's probably gonna be another attacker, which would make sense, or I'm not sure if it's that worth calling out anything behind. His Vanguard, I think he kept that crit standing because he knew he would call something in there. I know he's going to call the Grenache behind the Lazy, so that's also quite good because since if he hollows it, he's going to get himself the counter charge as well, so that's very good. And Miltae drops that new grade 0 that we're going to have as a promo. And let's see, so he gets a draw from the crit that he had on the field. And let's see, he gets a crit in his drive checks, that's very good, that's 2 damage going off already. He gets a Lazy and the Skeleton Cannoneer, so that's 2 damage for Miltae, and there's a Night Storm and a G Perfect Guard, and that's going to be the end of Gungnir's turn. So he's going to get his 3 counter charges, which is really good, and he's going to use Nightrose's skill to mill 3 and call out 1 other card back. That was just retired, and he's going to use the Lazy. So that's pretty good because with Lazy he can bring out Cannoneer to get himself the... Well, it's going to be a bit more of a long-winded Lily combo, but it's still going to be possible to do it. So let's see how Miltae is going to respond to this. He's just going to go for the Gouache, so, you know, it's quite the understandable play because he has built up quite a significant soul. He's going to be soul blasting a total of 4 cards, which is very nice. I'm not sure if he already soul blasted for the skill itself. Okay, I think he made the separation now, so he's getting 3 cards down, it seems. So let's see. So there are the 3 calls, basically just what he soul blasted, and he's gonna put the starter back down there as well. And he's using the Cannoneer to retire the King Serpent and also to get the draw from the Cannoneer skill. So it's definitely good. And you know, having the Cannoneer on the field is going to be good for, well, while he's on Gungnir's turn as well, because he's going to be able to do a bit of a mid-battle phase retire. So, let's see what Miltae is going to decide to do next. He's got already a fairly nice field. You know, he's got the very small but significant buff from Gouache as well. And let's see, so he's going to Counter Blast 1, and I believe, yeah, he's using the Nightrose skill, I believe, because it's still the same timing. So he's going to use that, and he also calls out the new Grade 0 starter as well, so that's very good. And now, as the timing has been finally reached, it seems, Gungnir can respond by using the Nightrose skill to a Mil 3 and call back his King Serpent. So it's quite interesting to see the mirror match, because it's like, while Grand Blue can retire, you know, other people's rear guards, Grand Blue can also bring back whatever gets retired, so it's quite interesting to see that happen in this mirror match. So, he attacks with the Vanguard and gets himself an extra card in the hand through the Banshee crit, and let's see what his drive check is going to give him in order to proceed with the turn. So, he does have all his Counter Blast gone, which is a little bit unfortunate, but is understandable, and I didn't quite catch how many cards he has in hand, because, well, the sleeves are just kind of too hard to make out how many, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's either 4 or 5, should be something around that number. But let's see what Gungnir decides to respond with. So, he does drop the Perfect Guard, and I didn't quite catch which card he dropped for the Perfect Guard. It might have been a crit, but I'm not too sure. So he gets the Lazy and gets the Heal, which is also very good for him, and he's going to put it on the Skeleton Cannoneer, so that's also quite good for him. And he gets the crit on top of that, so overall looking very good right now. Miltae is slowly but surely climbing his way to victory. Let's see if he can actually close the game out on this turn, but I'm not sure if it's going to be possible, because Gungnir still does, well, he does have 4 cards in hand, you know, there are still 2 attacks coming, so let's see if by any chance Miltae can close out the game right now. But, you know, it's, oh no, he does have the G-Guard, so that's definitely a saving grace. So it looks like he should be able to survive the turn if he has a G-Guard, because the next attack, it will be significant but not too big. And this is the new rare G-Guard from Rami Labyrinth. So essentially how it works is that when you have, it basically gets +5 shield for every 5 cards you have in the drop zone. So when you have 5 cards in the drop zone, he gets +5. If you have 10, he gets another 5, and you have 15, he gets another 5. And that's where it ends. So it's a total of up to 30k shield, but because Gungnir did have the 15 cards in the drop zone, he did get the total of 30k shield, so it's definitely a pretty nice G-Guard, and it's only a rare, so overall I'm quite pleased with it. So it's the end of Miltae's turn now, and he's just doing, you know, all his hollows and whatnot, and just, you know, doing all the counter charges, and using Nightrose's skill, and he's gonna bring back the Cannoneer, which is definitely understandable, because he's gonna be able to use that with Lily in order to do a mid-battle phase retire, so it's looking very good for him. You know, Gungnir could still respond by calling out his own Cannoneer, but we'll see what he decides to do. But even if he does call out a Cannoneer, then Miltae can use Nightrose to bring back the Cannoneer, so it's going to be quite an interesting scenario of just skeletons killing themselves, killing each other essentially over and over and over again. So let's see what he decides to respond with. So I believe he did drop this stride, but he's still considering what he should do, you know, looking through his drop zone to see what exactly he could call out in order to, well, just push out the game, because his hand is not looking too solid, so he should probably try to just end off the game right now. And while we're waiting for Gungnir to decide, it's actually, just wanted to mention that overall in Japan, people are really amazed by the Nightrose. Well, I wouldn't say amazed, but it just, the Nightrose deck is much more popular and much more highly praised than it would be in the West, because like I personally really love that deck. It might be my favorite competitive deck to watch, but a lot of both, you know, American and European and just overall Western players aren't, they would still say Time Leap is stronger. So he goes into the Dragoon. So this is Gungnir's response, and Dragoon's skill will allow him to essentially, you know, do a bit of retiring. So I believe the skill should be that it's Counter Blast 2 and discard 1, and then he's able to revive as many cards as he has on the field. So if he has 2, he can revive 2. If he has 3, he can revive 3, and then 1 obviously gets killed off. And then for as many cards with Hollow that he revives, he's able to retire that many rearguards of the opponent, and then he draws a card on top of that. So basically what Gungnir, I believe the reason why Gungnir went for this is to get rid of that Cannoneer just during the main phase without much effort. So he could have gone for the Cannoneer, but instead he did go for the Dragoon. But I think it is a pretty solid play. Like, my only problem with Dragoon is that it's counterblast 2, but it's definitely, I think it's still a well costed stride, especially for Grand Blue, who can countercharge for days. So it's overall just a super solid GR that we will be getting very soon, in just, you know, just a bit over a month, I believe, in English. So definitely do look forward to that release in English. You know, overall this set is going to be pretty good, especially for Grand Blue. Pale Moon not so much, but you know, we're not all winners in this game. So let's see what Gungnir decides to do, because he can still call out something with Nightrose's skill, and I believe that's what he just did. Yes, so he's gonna call out his Grenache, or he's still deciding, so, or he can call out the Ghosty family. So let's see what he has quite a few targets, but you know, oh, he could call out the new Nightrose. He's considering. Let's see what he decides to take. Okay, it's the new Nightrose, so okay, there's that. And but I believe he was still using the Nightrose Grade 3's on-strike skill to do that. So let's see what he decides to do next, and you know, essentially just call out 3 cards. Oh no, he's okay. He decided against it. He called out the Banshee crit instead, and probably, I wonder if he's going to use it immediately or first. Oh no, okay, he's using it immediately, puts it in the soul and gets his draw. So a little bit of filtering, so that definitely is a nice little advantage. Bringing back that Banshee crit is such a just nice thing. Like, this crit is so good in Grand Blue, it's almost disgusting. So nice, he gets it again with the lazy, so he's definitely bringing up his, you know, the amount of cards in his hand. And now he's going to use the Dragoon to counterblast 2 and discard 1, and I believe he's exhausted all of his counterblasts by now, so he's going to be able to call out a total of 3 cards. And you know, he only needs to call out 1 with Hollow, because as long as he has 1, he'll just get rid of that 1 rear guard that Miltae has. So there's 2 cards and the third one, and it's like, once again, the crit, so he doesn't want to lose out on cards from hand. So it's, you know, it's definitely understandable. So he does get the extra draw from the Dragoon skill, so after you call out everything and do all the retires, you just get 1 draw. It's not a retire for each call, it's just 1 draw. I mean, it's a retire for each call, but it's not a draw for each call. So it's just the 1 draw, but it's definitely a nice addition, because you do discard for the skill, so in the end you essentially break even. But in order to draw, you do have to clear out your opponent's whole field, so it has to be empty after you've activated the skill. So, you know, Miltae still has a timing to respond to the Dragoon by using Nightrose's GB2 to bring back the Cannoneer, and he will be able to use the Cannoneer immediately that way, so you know, he doesn't even have to go into the Lily, and there we go, he's going to use it and bring back the Cannoneer to retire whatever he decides to. So let's see what exactly he will retire, and it's going to be the lazy behind the Banshee crit. So it's not a big problem for Gungnir, it seems. He just puts the Banshee crit into the soul to get himself a draw. So let's see if he decides to call out another full column just to accommodate that little, you know, losing that lazy, because I'm pretty sure he wanted to do something with it, you know, he wouldn't just call it out for no reason. But let's see, I kind of wonder why he didn't go for the bone, because I feel like the bone is also quite a good source for combos, but you know, but at the same time, he's not going to be able to use the bone now anyway, since he doesn't have any counterblast, so I guess it's not exactly an immediate threat, while the lazy immediately kind of gives him a little bit of advantage in several forms. So he's going to call out what I believe is new Grade 1 Banshee, so that's going to be, I believe that one does have to be retired to activate its skill, so not going to be doing too much now, but he was probably planning to call that out behind the lazy in order to have himself at least a 16k column. So a little bit unfortunate, but what can you do? So he's going to attack with a Dragoon, and let's see what Miltae's response is going to be. He does want to see Gungnir's G-Zone in order to confirm what exactly he has in there. Not G-Zone, Drop Zone, my bad. So, you know, he does have to do that because it's essentially knowing what kind of combos he might go. Maybe not in this turn, but in the following turns for sure. So, you know, he does have that Grenache, so we don't know when, you know, there's going to be counter charge coming through, and then you can never know when some lilies might be dropping, so there's always things like that you have to consider. So let's see, he gets the Perfect Guard and the Serpent and the old Nightrose, so you know, it's looking pretty good, but Miltae did Perfect Guard that, so he's quite okay. He's got 2 open counterblasts as well that he'll be able to use next turn, make that 3 to he's going up to 3 counterblast now that he did get the 4th damage in his damage zone, and he did get a defensive crit. So, you know, that's pretty much going to be the end of Gungnir's turn, because there's not much else that he can do, because I believe he's exhausted all of his counterblast, and I don't think he'll be able to use the bone in this turn. Nope, he's going to end off his turn and use up all his hollows to get all the counter charge off as well. And let's see if he's going to use the Nightrose's skill to get the Grenache revived and, you know, to get himself another counter charge. But if we look at Gungnir's deck, it's definitely getting quite low. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it is getting smaller and smaller, but I don't think Miltae's deck is that small yet. So, alright, so he gets himself the Serpent, so that's quite nice. And let's see what he decides to do. Okay, so I think he has 6 cards in hand, so, you know, he's not looking too bad actually. He's got pretty much almost everything counter charged. So, and you know, he did get a card back in his deck, so I think, you know, he's, despite being great stuck and having to G-assist and just having to basically fight the uphill battle, Gungnir is definitely making a nice comeback. So, but let's see if that nice comeback can break through Miltae's very nice and steady game that he's been building up throughout this whole match. So, you know, let's see how exactly he's gonna finish this off. So he does go for the Dragoon, so it's kind of like a mirror in response, as they both went for the Gouache in the first stride and they both went for the Dragoon in the second stride. It's only that, you know, Miltae didn't get the G-guard after that. So let's see how he decides to respond. It doesn't look like he's calling out anything else. Nope, he's just going to call out the 2 cards for his 2 that he already has. So it's going to be the Mick and Ghosty family and the Rook. So overall a fairly aggressive field, but looks like he's considering the Mick. He's not too sure if he wants to keep that or not. So, you know, okay, he's gonna just change where it's called. He's instead gonna call it behind the Dragoon, so that's also quite understandable. And he's gonna call out the Grenache behind the Rook as well. So overall, it's quite nice. And that's quite a few. Well, you know, he did call out 3 hollows, so that is bye-bye to poor Gungnir's field. So it is quite unfortunate. And he's gonna use. Wow, I think he just milled all 3 of his heal triggers for the Nightrose skill. That really hurts. I think that was actually all 3 of his heal triggers just right next to each other, milled away for Nightrose's skill. That is so unfortunate, because that basically takes him out of his G-guards and out of his, you know, possible last chance survival. So definitely hurts to see that, but you know, it is quite important to keep the units on the field. And you know, if Gungnir is going to G-guard, but I believe he can't anymore because he did already G-guard once, and if that's all 3 heals gone, then, you know, even the pressure of the Cannoneer existing is kind of gone, because, like, you know, just having Cannoneer on the field during your opponent's turn does add this little layer of pressure, because it's like, you don't know if they have the heal in hand, if they're going to G-guard, if they're going to use Lily to retire one of your rear guards while you're battling. So overall, it's a really good pressure card, but Miltae is able to, you know, kind of get out of that, because he knows there shouldn't be any more well, heal triggers to go for him to lose out on cards, so he can go for the full offensive. And okay, so Gungnir is gonna guard with that, well, guard that attack. So Miltae goes for a second one, and a perfect guard is dropped by Gungnir. Let's see what he decides to drop forward. He drops the King's Serpent, and he gets the counter charge because he does have a perfect guard in his drop zone. So Miltae is gonna be able to use the Banshee crit to put in the soul and to draw a card. And Gungnir gets another perfect guard off, so it's overall looking pretty okay for him, but his card now are getting really low. He gets the crit. Let's even get a stand. This is going to be really... Ooh, no, he does not get the stand. So, you know, he's not going to be doing all that much damage, because if he got that stand with the crit, it would have been quite a big punch. And I don't think Gungnir would have survived that, because he does have the stand, but I can't really make out all the other cards in his hand. Wow, to stride, he drops the Nightrose and his... Ghosty stand, so he's gonna go for the Gouache, and let's see what he decides to do with this. But Miltae has a hand of 8 cards. How is he gonna break through this? And now Gungnir has 4 cards in his deck, so technically he can still, you know, attack safely and not deck out. But he's gonna call out the King Serpent. Wow, he's gonna get the Soul Charge. And I'm pretty sure he dropped that Ghosty stand to put it back to deck before he attacks with the Vanguard. So this is a very peculiar series of attacks. You know, I understand going for the gouache. Let's see what he flips up for it. Okay, another gouache, so he's going to be able to, whatever he calls out with the gouache skill, he's going to be able to give them a plus 5k buff. So overall, it's pretty cool. So, Miltae is just counting how many ghosty stands does Gungnir have, how many cards can he put back to deck, and you know, putting these exact cards back to deck does give him the chance to, you know, check some stands on his attacks to give him just multiple attacks. He calls out the Nightstorm. We're gonna see some interesting combos here because last time we saw Gungnir call out Nightstorm, it was pretty much the end of the game. So let's see if Gungnir can close it out on this turn because it's pretty much do or die. He's low on cards in deck, he's low on cards in hand. It's overall not looking very good because, you know, even if he does make card advantage, he's just gonna, you know, deck himself out. So a very strange situation for Gungnir here. So he's essentially considering what he should do next. But, you know, one of the things he has to do is call out one of those ghosty stands because that's his path to survival. That's the only way he's not gonna deck out. So he really needs to go for at least one of them now. He's gonna get his Negro Bone out in there. It seems he hasn't placed it. Okay, he did call it down. So he does have the full combo going for him. You know, there's a lot of combos going off this turn. He drops the Nightrose crit. Nope, he takes it back because, you know, that is another draw, so that's definitely not something he's looking for. So now he's attacking with a Serpent on, I believe, the Serpent. I didn't quite catch that, but he doesn't boost. So, you know, there is that. And he was just pointing to which cards have the buff from gouache. And let's see, so he's gonna use, well, he essentially brought back the King Serpent, I believe, and then now he's gonna attack with a Nightstorm, and you know, he didn't boost, so we do know that some combos are coming. So, you know, okay, he's dropping the crit to guard, and he is bringing out the ghosties. So this is gonna be a fairly ferocious attack. You know, it's not gonna be too big. I believe it's a 16 with the 5k buff from gouache. Because I do believe he does give it to the specific units that were called. Correct me if I'm wrong. But okay, so Miltae does guard that fairly safely. So we're going through quite a few attacks, but Miltae's hand isn't dropping too much. He's still fairly well on hand. So he does retire. Gungnir does retire the stand, and it immediately just goes back to deck. I like how he plays that. It looks very stylish, actually. So, but now he's just shuffling through his drop zone, probably thinking what to do, and it appears that he concedes the game. So Game 2 taken by Miltae, and we're going to be going to a Game 3 to decide who's going to win this Nightrose versus Nightrose matchup. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in to this match. Do let me know what you guys thought and, you know, how the commentary went and the game itself as well. And I'll be seeing you guys next week for Game 3. Bye-bye.